September 3, 1944, Wehrmacht headquarters, somewhere in the forests east of the Seine River. Generalmajor Klaus Brenner spreads reconnaissance photographs across the oak table, his finger tracing the single road stretching from the Normandy coast to the advancing American spearheads. The staff officers have calculated the numbers 3 times. The mathematics are undeniable. The American Third Army, now pushing 425 miles inland, has exceeded every known limit of mechanized logistics. Patton's tanks will grind to a halt within 48 hours, perhaps less. The fuel simply cannot reach them in time. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. But 140 miles to the west, something Brenner cannot see is already defying every principle of warfare his generation was taught. Nearly 6,000 American trucks have formed an unbroken steel river, headlights blazing through the French night, carrying 13,000 tons of supplies eastward in a convoy that stretches beyond the horizon. This is the Red Ball Express, a logistical operation so audacious that the German military mind had dismissed it as impossible before it even began. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you're enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. Brenner's confidence emerged from brutal experience on the Eastern Front. In summer 1941, German panzer divisions raced 400 miles into Russia in 3 weeks. August 25, 1944. 72 hours before Brenner's confident calculation. Inside a requisitioned chateau near Laval, France, American logistics officers crowded around a table buried in maps and supply manifests. The atmosphere was desperate. Colonel Gordon Hayes, Deputy Chief of Motor Transport, stood at the head. The traditional supply system had fractured. Rail lines remained too damaged. Conventional convoys were drowning in inefficiency. Forward units reported fuel shortages. Patton was screaming for supplies, and if Third Army stalled, the entire Allied advance could collapse. Hayes looked at the assembled officers. "Gentlemen, we are going to do something that violates every logistics manual ever written. We will create a one-way highway from the coast to the front. Trucks will run 24 hours a day, every day without pause. We will move a minimum of 12,500 tons daily, and we will do it with headlights on, in convoys visible from the air." The room erupted. A major stood. "Sir, that's suicide. The Luftwaffe will massacre us." Hayes cut him off. "The Luftwaffe barely exists. Allied air superiority is absolute. The Germans have perhaps 200 operational aircraft in the entire theater. We have 10,000. Next objection." A lieutenant colonel raised his hand. "Mechanical breakdown, sir. We'll lose 30% to failures within a week." "Then we'll replace them," Hayes said flatly. "Ships are unloading new trucks daily. We'll treat vehicles as ammunition, expendable. If a truck can't be fixed in 15 minutes, we push it into a ditch and move on." "Sir, drivers can't operate 24 hours straight." "We'll use rotations."
August 27, 1944. Dawn breaks over the staging area outside Cherbourg. Staff Sergeant Roosevelt Jackson of the 39 16th Quartermaster Truck Company walks down a line of GMC trucks, checking manifests. Each truck carries 7 tons of supplies, 2 tons over capacity, but that's standard now. Artillery shells for units near Chartres, 280 miles east. Jackson is 34, from Birmingham, Alabama. Before the war, he drove delivery trucks. Now he's responsible for 42 trucks and 42 drivers, making it to the front and back without losing a single crate. He approaches Private First Class James Walker, 19, from Detroit, performing pre-trip inspection. "Walker, you good?" "Yes, Sergeant. Oil's clean, tires inflated, cargo secured." You drove straight through yesterday. You need rest? Walker grins. Sarge, I drove my daddy's coal truck 16 hours a day since I was 14. I'm good. Up and down the line, the scene repeats. Young men, old men, drivers from every corner of Black America. Mississippi sharecroppers' sons, Chicago factory workers, Georgia mechanics, California longshoremen, all about to become the most critical supply line in the European theater. At 0600 hours, the convoy commander's whistle blows. 42 engines roar to life. Jackson climbs into his lead truck, checks his mirror, and pulls onto the road. The Red Ball Express has begun. The route is clearly marked. Every 50 yards, a red ball painted on white backgrounds. The signs mark a one-way highway reserved exclusively for red ball traffic. Eastbound convoys use the northern route. Westbound empties use the southern parallel road. The rules are absolute. Maintain 35 miles per hour average speed. Spacing, 60 yards between trucks. Trucks below 25 miles per hour must pull off immediately. Breakdowns, 15 minutes to repair or abandon. No stops except designated refueling points every 50 miles. If you fall asleep, your co-driver slaps you awake. No co-driver, stay awake anyway. Jackson's convoy merges onto the main red ball route near Avranches. Ahead and behind, as far as he can see, trucks. Thousands of them, an unbroken line of GMC vehicles, each loaded beyond capacity, rolling east in a steel river that seems endless. At the first fuel stop, the choreography is precise. Each truck refuels in less than 8 minutes and continues. No delays, no lines. The system flows like an assembly line. A white military police lieutenant supervises. He barely glances at Jackson. "Keep 'em moving, Sergeant. You're 14 minutes ahead of schedule. Don't lose it." "Yes, sir." No racial slurs, no segregation at this fuel stop. Red Ball operates on one principle: speed. Everything else is secondary. As Jackson pulls back onto the highway, he notices truck doors bearing.
The Red Ball Express isn't just trucks and fuel. It's men pushing themselves past every reasonable limit. Corporal Elijah Martinez, 3rd Platoon, 582nd Quartermaster Truck Company, has been driving for 22 consecutive hours. His eyes burn. His hands shake on the wheel. Twice in the last hour, he's jerked awake just before drifting into the ditch. He has no co-driver. His regular partner is in a field hospital with pneumonia. At the next refueling point, Martinez begs a medic for Benzedrine. The Army issues stimulant. The medic hands over 2 tablets without question. Don't take both at once unless you want your heart to explode. Martinez dry swallows 1 tablet and pockets the other. 20 minutes later, the artificial alertness kicks in. His vision sharpens, his hands steady. He'll pay for this tomorrow with a crashing headache and trembling limbs, but tomorrow doesn't matter. Only the next 200 miles matter. This scene repeats thousands of times across the Red Ball network. Men stay awake through chemistry, willpower, and desperation. Some drivers develop their own rituals. Sergeant Leon Hayes sings gospel hymns at the top of his lungs to stay alert. Private Thomas Brooks slaps himself in the face every 10 minutes. Corporal Isaiah Grant keeps a canteen of ice water and periodically dumps it over his head. The accidents are inevitable. September 2nd, near Alanson, Private David Richardson falls asleep at the wheel. His truck drifts left, crosses the center line, and collides head-on with a westbound empty. Both trucks erupt in flames. Richardson and the other driver, Private Moses King, burn to death before anyone can reach them. Military police push both wrecks off the road. Traffic resumes within 20 minutes. September 8th, outside Drew. A convoy encounters fog so thick drivers can barely see 30 feet ahead. 12 trucks pile up in a chain reaction crash. 3 men die, 8 are seriously injured. The wrecked vehicles are bulldozed into a field. The convoy continues. September 14th, near Rhymes. Private Carlton Jefferson's brakes fail on a steep descent.
His truck, loaded with 5 tons of gasoline, careens out of control and overturns. The fuel ignites instantly. Jefferson is trapped in the cab, conscious, screaming as fire consumes him. Other drivers stop, try desperately to reach him, but the heat is too intense. They can only watch him die. These deaths aren't recorded in history books. There are no medals, no monuments. The men are listed as non-battle casualties, a bureaucratic category that lumps together deaths from disease, accidents, and misadventure. But the Red Ball drivers know the truth. They're dying in a war zone, just not from enemy fire. And they keep driving. By early September, the Red Ball Express has developed its own brutal ecosystem. It's no longer just a supply route. It's a 24-hour-a-day mechanized organism that consumes men, trucks, and fuel and produces one output: forward momentum. The drivers enforce their own laws. Any truck moving slower than 25 miles per hour is treated like an enemy. Faster trucks flash their headlights, honk horns, and if the slow vehicle doesn't pull over immediately, drivers alongside will literally force it off the road. This isn't malice, it's survival. A single slow truck can back up a convoy for miles, costing hours of time and thousands of gallons of wasted fuel. Mobile maintenance crews position themselves every 50 miles. These are teams of 5 or 6 mechanics with a crane truck and a salvage vehicle. When a Red Ball truck breaks down, the crew has exactly 15 minutes to diagnose and repair. If it's a simple fix,
September 6, 1944. Reconnaissance Patrol, 21st Panzer Division, operating behind American lines near Chartres. Lieutenant Franz Killer and 4 men hide in a tree line overlooking the main road. They've been here 3 hours, counting American vehicles and taking photographs. What they've seen has left them speechless. Keller watches through binoculars as another convoy passes. He counts trucks. After 60, he stops counting. The line seems endless. Herr Lieutenant, whispers Unteroffizier Hans Becker. They're not even hiding. Headlights full on. No spacing. This is madness. Take another photograph. Becker snaps several shots. That's the last exposure, sir. Then we move. In 3 hours, Keller has counted over 800 trucks moving east. The convoy has no brakes, no spacing, no concealment, a violation of every operational security principle he was taught. When the patrol returns to division headquarters, Keller submits his report to Major Otto Reinhardt, intelligence officer. Reinhardt reads it twice. Lieutenant, you're certain of these numbers? Absolutely, sir. Minimum 800 vehicles, possibly over 1,000. And running with headlights at night? Yes, sir. Full headlights. We could see them from 5 kilometers away. Reinhardt sets down the report. This makes no sense. A convoy that size, that visible, is a perfect target. Why aren't they dispersing? Why no blackout discipline? Keller has no answer. When Generalmajor Brenner reviews the photographs 2 days later, his reaction mirrors Reinhardt's. Disbelief. This is either brilliant or suicidal, Brenner mutters. Perhaps both. Oberst Vogel studies the photographs. Herr General, if these reports are accurate, the Americans are moving supplies at rates we never imagined. But these are commercial trucks, lightly built, overloaded, driven continuously. They should be breaking down catastrophically. And yet they continue, Brenner says quietly. More reports arrive over following days. Observers from different units, all describing the same phenomenon. An endless convoy, running day and night, seemingly immune to the logistical laws that govern warfare. On September 10th, an Abwehr intelligence summary includes testimony from captured American truck driver, Corporal Andrew Phillips, wounded near Metz. The interrogation transcript is remarkable. Question: how many trucks operate on your supply route? Answer: thousands, maybe 6,000. Question:
How do you maintain them? Answer: we don't. If a truck breaks, we abandon it. New ones come from the ports every day. Question: you abandoned functional equipment? Answer: if it can't be fixed in 15 minutes, yes. Question: this is wasteful beyond comprehension. Answer: we got more trucks than you got tanks. Question: how long have you been driving without rest? Answer: I did a 36-hour run 3 days ago. Took Benzedrine to stay awake. Question: you use amphetamines? Answer: everybody does. Can't drive 20 hours straight without it. The interrogator's note: subject appears truthful. Assessment: Americans are operating a logistics system that prioritizes speed over efficiency, replacement over conservation. This violates all conventional doctrine, but appears to be functioning. Brenner reads the transcript 3 times, then summons Vogel. We calculated based on European principles: conservation, efficiency, maintenance intervals. The Americans aren't following any of those rules. No, sir. They're treating trucks like ammunition, fire and forget. Brenner walks to the wall map, tracing the American supply line from Normandy to Metz. We assumed their logistics would collapse because that's what our logistics would do. But they have something we don't. Sir, an industrial base so vast they can...
By mid-September, the truth has become inescapable across Wehrmacht command. The Americans haven't stalled, they've accelerated. At Army Group B headquarters, General der Panzertruppen Erich Brandenberger briefs Field Marshal von Rundstedt. The Americans are now receiving 13,000 tons of supplies daily at forward depots. This exceeds our most optimistic projections by a factor of 4. Von Rundstedt, veteran of both world wars, asks, how? A single supply route, Herr Feldmarschall. One highway, thousands of trucks running continuously. They call it the Red Ball Express. Casualties? From our attacks, minimal. Their air superiority is absolute. We cannot interdict the convoys effectively. From their own operations? Unknown, but intelligence suggests significant losses to accidents and mechanical failure. And yet they continue? They continue because they can replace losses faster than they incur them. We destroy one truck, 2 more arrive the next day. Von Rundstedt stares at the map. Then, we are not fighting an army, we are fighting a factory. This realization spreads through the German command structure like a virus. Junior officers who still believed in operational art, in maneuver, in the decisive battle, are confronted with a simple truth. The Americans don't need to outfight the Wehrmacht, they merely need to outlast it. Generalleutnant Paul Richter, who confidently predicted American collapse just 2 weeks earlier, now submits a revised assessment. Previous calculations regarding American logistics were based on European operational norms. These assumptions were incorrect. The enemy has demonstrated the capacity to sustain supply rates unprecedented in military history. Third Army will not halt due to logistics. We must revise all strategic planning accordingly. The admission is humiliating, but necessary. September 18, 1944. Generalmajor Klaus Brenner stands on a hilltop outside Nancy, watching the horizon through binoculars. It's 2100 hours, full dark, and the Red Ball Express is running as always. From this vantage point, he can see headlights stretching in an unbroken line from west to east, disappearing into the distance. The sound reaches him even here, miles away. A continuous mechanical growl, the sound of thousands of engines pushing through the night. Oberst Vogel stands beside him. Intelligence reports the convoy has been running for 24 consecutive days without interruption, sir. Brenner doesn't lower his binoculars. How is that possible? We don't know, sir. By every standard we understand, it should have collapsed by now.
Brenner finally lowers the binoculars. Vogel, we studied logistics at the Kriegsakademie. We learned from Clausewitz, from Moltke, from Schlieffen. We applied those principles in Poland, in France, in Russia. And now we're watching those principles become irrelevant. Sir? This, he gestures at the distant headlights, this is not military science. This is something else entirely. This is mass production applied to war, and we have no counter for it. Vogel is silent. Do you know what frightens me most? Brenner continues. It's not their tanks. It's not their aircraft. It's this. He points at the convoy, because this means they can make mistakes, suffer casualties, lose equipment, and simply replace everything faster than we can destroy it. How do you defeat an enemy that can absorb unlimited losses? Vogel has no answer. Brenner takes one last look at the endless river of headlights. We calculated that Patton would stop. We were certain of it. The mathematics were perfect. Yes, sir. We were wrong. Yes, sir. Brenner turns away from the view. Prepare a report for Field Marshal von Rundstedt. Inform him that Third Army's logistics are not a weakness we can exploit. They are a strength we cannot counter. The war in the West is lost unless we receive reinforcements that do not exist. As Brenner walks back to his staff car, the sound of the Red Ball Express echoes through the night. 6,000 trucks, 23,000 men, most of them black soldiers fighting for a country that still treated them as second-class citizens. And they were winning the war.
September 25, 1944. At Communication Zone Headquarters in Paris, Colonel Gordon Hayes received the Red Ball Express 30-day report. The numbers were staggering. Sir, we've moved 298,000 tons of supplies, Major Caldwell reported. Average of 5,958 trucks operational daily. Peak day, 6,824 trucks simultaneously. Breakdowns? 1,794 per day. Deadline rate is 29.4%. Nearly one-third of the fleet was broken at any moment. By conventional standards, catastrophic. But convoys kept rolling because replacement vehicles arrived faster than trucks failed. Fuel consumption for the operation itself? 295,000 gallons daily just to run the trucks. Hayes set down the report. The Red Ball consumed more fuel per day than entire German armies. They were burning an ocean of gasoline to deliver more gasoline. Casualties? 89 drivers killed, 317 seriously injured. Traffic accidents, vehicle fires, rollovers. Medical issues from exhaustion, drivers collapsing at aid stations, amphetamine abuse. 89 dead in 30 days. None by enemy action. These deaths wouldn't make headlines. No medals, no memorials. Just bureaucratic, non-battle deaths. 42,000 tires consumed, replacing 487 engines per week. We're running a mobile junkyard, Hayes muttered. Yes, sir, but it's working. That was the point. Despite breakdown rates that would cripple any European army, despite wasteful fuel consumption, despite exhausted drivers pushed past safe limits, it was working. Patton's Third Army hadn't slowed. Caldwell added, intelligence reports German commanders requesting strategic reassessment. One logistics officer wrote, the Americans possess supply capacity that renders traditional defensive calculations meaningless. They are not constrained by what is possible, only by what is available, and what is available appears unlimited. Hayes nodded. Send this to Schaeff and Third Army. Patton should know what these men are doing. After Caldwell left, Hayes stared at the numbers. By any rational measure, the Red Ball should have collapsed within a week. But it survived because behind it stood the greatest industrial economy in human history, producing trucks faster than the Red Ball could destroy them. The Wehrmacht never had that luxury. German trucks broke down in Russia and stayed broken for weeks.
American trucks broke down and were replaced within hours by fresh vehicles from Cherbourg. It wasn't military genius, it was industrial supremacy, and it was winning the war. October 3, 1944. Cherbourg Harbor. Sergeant William Foster supervises the unloading of 183 brand-new GMC trucks from the Liberty ship SS John Patterson. Factory fresh, paint barely dry, they'll be on the Red Ball route within 48 hours. Within 2 weeks, some will be abandoned wrecks. Within a month, many will be cannibalized for parts. 14 ships this week, Foster reports to Lieutenant Fisher. Approximately 2,100 new vehicles. Fisher does the math. Red Ball loses 1,500 trucks weekly to breakdowns, another 300 to accidents and mechanical failures. So we're netting about 300 trucks per week. The fleet is actually growing. The Germans have no idea. Wehrmacht logistics operates on conservation and careful maintenance because German industry cannot replace losses at scale. A truck is a valuable asset to be nursed along for years. The concept of disposable vehicles, run into the ground and discarded, is alien to German military thinking. But American industry has transformed the equation. General Motors alone produces 5,000 trucks monthly. Ford adds 4,000 more. Assembly lines run 24 hours a day, pumping out vehicles faster than any army can destroy them. At the Red Ball Motor Pool in St. Lo, Master Sergeant Julius Henderson manages the constant flow. His operation resembles a factory more than a traditional depot. Broken trucks are stripped for parts within hours, carcasses hauled away for scrap. Fresh trucks from the ports are prepped and dispatched immediately. Henderson's crews have developed brutal efficiency. Blown engine? They swapped the entire engine block in 38.
October 8, 1944. Field Hospital Number 47, New Reims. Dr. Captain Elizabeth Morgan moved through the ward checking patients. Most were combat casualties, but an entire section held Red Ball drivers, men injured not by enemy fire, but by the brutality of 20-hour driving shifts. Bed 14, Private Dennis Cooper, 22, Newark. Fell asleep at the wheel, truck rolled 3 times at 40 miles per hour. Broken collarbone, fractured ribs, severe concussion. He'd survive, but never drive again. Bed 17, Corporal Raymond Holmes, 28, Atlanta. Brakes failed on a descent. He steered into a ditch to avoid hitting the truck ahead. The impact crushed his left leg. Amputated yesterday. Bed 23, Staff Sergeant Michael Washington, 31, Chicago. Burns over 40% of his body. Engine fire after 18 consecutive hours driving. He stayed in the cab trying to reach the depot before jumping clear. His uniform was already burning. Morgan stopped at Washington's bed. His face and hands were wrapped in bandages. "How are you feeling, Sergeant?" "Like I got barbecued, ma'am." "You're lucky to be alive." "The cargo, ma'am. Did it make it?" "The truck was destroyed. Everything was lost." Washington closed his eyes. "Damn. 3 tons of medical supplies. Some field hospital needed that." "Sergeant, you nearly died. The supplies don't matter." "They matter to whoever was waiting for them." This was the Red Ball mentality. Mission above self, supplies above safety. These men believed their lives mattered less than the cargo. Bed 31, Private Leonard Matthews, 19, Mississippi. Not physically injured. Found wandering the route incoherent and hallucinating. Severe amphetamine toxicity combined with sleep deprivation. 6 consecutive days on Benzedrine, driving 18 20-hour shifts until his mind fractured. The psychiatrist couldn't predict recovery. Morgan wrote in her log, "Recommend immediate policy review regarding stimulant distribution. Current usage rates creating unsustainable medical casualties." Her recommendation would be noted and filed. Nothing would change. The Red Ball needed drivers awake. Benzodrine kept them awake. Long-term consequences were someone else's problem. In another section, Captain Thomas Bradley sat beside Private Jerome Taylor's bed. Taylor was dying. Rear-ended by a driver who'd fallen asleep. Fuel tank ruptured. Truck exploded. Burns over 70%. Infection setting in. 2 days left, maybe 3. "Did we keep them supplied?" he whispered. "Yes, because of you, Third Army hasn't stopped."
October 20th, 1944, German forward observation post, 12 kilometers west of Metz. Gefreiter Anton Schaefer huddles in a foxhole, listening to the distant rumble of engines. It's 0200 hours, pitch dark, and the sound has been constant for 3 days now. Day and night, without pause, the American trucks keep rolling. Schaefer is 19 years old. He's been at the front for 6 months. He's survived artillery barrages, infantry assaults, and air attacks. But this sound, this endless mechanical growl emanating from the darkness, is breaking him in ways combat never did. "Do they ever stop?" asks Obergefreiter Hans Müller, sharing the foxhole. "I don't think so," Schaefer whispers. "I think they have infinite trucks." Müller knows that's irrational, but he feels it too. The psychological weight of that ceaseless rumble. It's the sound of an enemy so powerful they don't even need to hide. They can run convoys with headlights blazing, engines roaring, completely indifferent to German presence. "We should call in artillery," Schaefer suggests. "Hit the convoy." "With what shells?" Müller responds bitterly. "We have 12 rounds for the entire battery. 12. The Americans probably have 1,000,000. The conversation dies. Both men know the truth. They're not fighting an army. They're fighting an industrial civilization that can produce faster than Germany can destroy. Unknown to Schaefer and Müller, what they're hearing isn't always real convoys. American psychological warfare units have discovered that the sound of the Red Ball Express terrifies German troops, so they've begun playing recordings of truck engines through loudspeakers positioned near German lines. Sometimes there are actual convoys, sometimes it's just recordings. The Germans can't tell the difference, and the continuous noise erodes morale even when no real trucks are present. At German divisional headquarters, reports of phantom convoys are increasing. Soldiers swear they heard trucks but never saw them. Forward observers report convoy activity that aerial reconnaissance can't confirm. Some units are calling in artillery strikes on empty roads, wasting precious ammunition on ghosts. The psychological campaign is accidental. The Americans didn't plan it as a weapon, but the sheer presence of the red ball, its noise, its visibility, and its apparent endlessness has become a tool of mental warfare. Oberst Heinrich Vogel reads these reports with growing concern. The men are becoming obsessed with the American supply convoys. Some are convinced the Americans have secret nighttime routes we cannot detect. Others believe the trucks are somehow invisible. This is affecting combat effectiveness. A German psychologist is brought in to assess the situation. His conclusion: the soldiers are experiencing a form of learned helplessness. They hear the convoys constantly. They know each truck represents supplies they cannot match. They understand that every American gun has unlimited ammunition while they ration every shot. This creates a sense of futility that undermines the will to fight. The psychologist recommends counter-propaganda emphasizing German tactical superiority and individual heroism. But propaganda can't compete with reality. German soldiers don't need propaganda. They need fuel, ammunition, and food, all things the Americans have in abundance, and they increasingly lack. In forward positions, German troops develop superstitions around the Red Ball convoys. Some believe that if you can see the truck headlights, you're safe, but if you only hear the engines, you'll die in the next attack. Others insist that counting trucks brings bad luck. Some refuse to discuss the convoys at all, as if silence will make them disappear. These are the psychological symptoms of an army being overwhelmed not by superior tactics, but by superior logistics. German soldiers are brave, well-trained, and tactically competent, But bravery means nothing when you have 3 bullets and the enemy has 3,000. Tactical skill is irrelevant when your tanks have no fuel to maneuver. By late October, German desertion rates begin to climb. Interrogation of captured deserters reveal a common theme. We knew we had lost when we saw their trucks. You cannot fight an enemy who has everything, and you have nothing.
November 10, 1944. The Red Ball Express officially ends operations. French railways have been sufficiently repaired to resume primary supply duties. After 82 days, the one-way highway closes. But its impact will echo for decades. In his final report, Colonel Hayes summarizes the operation. 412,193 tons of supplies delivered. 122 million ton-miles logged. 57 million gallons of fuel consumed to operate the convoys. 180,000 tires destroyed. 5,458 trucks abandoned or scrapped. 304 drivers killed. 1,247 seriously injured. The report also includes captured German assessments. Wehrmacht logistics officers, now prisoners of war, have been extensively interrogated about their reaction to Red Ball. Generalmajor Klaus Brenner, captured near Nancy in November, provides perhaps the most candid assessment. We calculated American logistics using European standards of efficiency and conservation. We assumed they would operate within the same constraints we faced: limited vehicles, careful maintenance, conservative use of resources. We were fundamentally wrong. The Americans don't operate within constraints. They simply overwhelm constraints with superior production. This is not a military principle. It is an industrial principle, and we had no counter for it. Oberst Heinrich Vogel, captured at the same time, adds, "I was trained at the Krieg Academy. I studied logistics under men who had served in the Great War. Everything I learned told me the American supply system would collapse. When it didn't, I thought we were receiving false intelligence. Then I saw the convoys myself. Thousands of trucks, running day and night, many breaking down but immediately replaced. It was like watching a force of nature. You cannot strategize against an avalanche. You can only try to survive it." Another captured officer, Hauptmann Werner Schmidt, admits, "The Red Ball Express destroyed our operational planning. We built defensive positions based on the assumption that American armor would halt for lack of fuel. Instead, they accelerated. We calculated their ammunition expenditure and predicted they would be forced to ration. Instead, their artillery fired continuously. Every assumption we made was wrong because we underestimated their capacity to deliver supplies by a factor of 10. Perhaps most tellingly, a junior logistics officer, Lieutenant Martin Becker, confesses, "When I saw the photographs of the Red Ball convoys, I didn't believe they were real. I thought they were propaganda, trick photography designed to intimidate us. Then our soldiers confirmed it. Then I saw it myself from a reconnaissance position. Trucks stretching beyond the horizon, headlights bright, moving with mechanical precision. And I understood we had already lost, not because their soldiers were better, but because they could deliver unlimited war materiel and we could not. In modern war, the factory is more important than the battlefield." These admissions are collected and classified. They won't be released publicly for years, but they confirm what Allied commanders already understood. The Red Ball Express hadn't just supplied an army, it had broken the spirit of the Wehrmacht by demonstrating a form of power Germany couldn't match. November 16, 1944. The last official Red Ball convoy completed its run. Staff Sergeant Roosevelt Jackson, who drove the first convoy on August 27th, delivered winter clothing to Metz, signed the manifest, and turned westward for the final time. The Red Ball route markers were being removed. The one-way highway opened to general traffic. The emergency was over. Railroads were functioning. The desperate improvisation was no longer necessary. But its impact was permanent. Third Army's Chief of Staff later calculated that without the Red Ball, Patton's advance would have stalled by mid-September, giving the Wehrmacht 6 additional weeks to establish defensive lines. Those weeks would have extended the war into 1946, costing tens of thousands of additional lives and allowing deeper Soviet advances into Germany. The Red Ball shortened the war by approximately 6 months. Each day cost $250 million. The operation, costing roughly $100 million, saved approximately $45 billion and countless lives. The human legacy was more complex. Of 23,000 drivers, roughly 75% were African American. They returned to a segregated country that denied them equal rights. Many couldn't vote. Most couldn't eat at the same restaurants as white Americans. But they had proven something undeniable. While Nazi ideology claimed racial superiority, Black American soldiers had delivered the supplies that defeated Nazi Germany. Private James Walker mustered out in 1946 and used his driving experience to get a trucking job in Detroit. Within 10 years, he owned his own freight business. Thousands of Red Ball veterans entered civilian trucking, bringing lessons of speed, efficiency, and long-haul operations learned in France. The modern American trucking industry, its emphasis on rapid delivery and just-in-time logistics, owes direct debt to the Red Ball Express. The military legacy was equally profound. The Red Ball proved that in industrial warfare, logistics could be decisive. Future conflicts, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, featured massive supply operations modeled on Red Ball principles. Prioritize speed over efficiency. Accept high costs to maintain momentum. Use overwhelming capacity to crush bottlenecks. In June 1994, on D-Day's 50th anniversary, the Postal Service issued a commemorative stamp. At the ceremony, aging veterans gathered, men in their 70s and 80s, many with canes or wheelchairs, standing proud. Jesse Richardson, former driver with the 582nd Quartermaster Truck Company, spoke. "We didn't think we were making history. We thought we were just doing our jobs. But we proved something important. We proved that skin color doesn't determine worth. We proved Americans of all backgrounds can achieve the impossible. We proved Hitler's racism was strategically stupid, and we proved it by driving trucks." The ceremony concluded with silence for the 304 drivers who never came home.
December 1944. Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt, preparing the Ardennes offensive, Germany's last desperate gamble in the West, reviews intelligence on American logistics. His staff has compiled a comprehensive analysis of the Red Ball Express. The document's conclusion is stark. The enemy has demonstrated logistics capacity exceeding all historical precedent. Their ability to deliver supplies at the operational level is not merely superior to our own, it exists in a different category entirely. This suggests that future operations against American forces must account not for superior enemy tactics or technology, but for effectively unlimited enemy resources. No defensive line, however well prepared, can withstand an opponent who can deliver unlimited ammunition to every gun and unlimited fuel to every tank. Von Rundstedt reads this and makes a notation. Then the war is already lost. He launches the Ardennes offensive anyway, in December 1944. It will be Germany's last major attack in the West. It will fail, not primarily because of American tactical superiority, but because American logistics can recover from initial setbacks faster than German forces can exploit them. Within 3 weeks, American supply lines will be restored, and the Wehrmacht's final offensive will collapse under the weight of American materiel superiority. After the war, during interrogations at Nuremberg and other locations, German generals are asked repeatedly, "What surprised you most about American military capabilities?" The answers vary, but a theme emerges. General Alfred Jodl, "Not their tanks, not their aircraft, their trucks.
We never imagined logistics on that scale. Field Marshal Albert Kesselring. We did not fight the American army. We fought American industry. The Red Ball Express was simply the most visible manifestation of an industrial power we could not match. General Franz Halder, former chief of the German General Staff. The Americans understood something we did not. In modern war, logistics is not merely support for operations. Logistics is the operation. The side that can deliver more supplies faster will win regardless of tactical genius. The Red Ball Express proved this conclusively. These admissions are filed in military archives, studied by future generations of officers, and incorporated into modern logistics doctrine. The Red Ball Express becomes a case study taught at every major military academy in the world. But perhaps the most fitting epitaph comes from a captured German soldier, a simple Gefreiter named Otto Keller, interviewed in a POW camp in January 1945. Asked what he remembered most about fighting the Americans, he said, "We prepared for their infantry, we prepared for their tanks, we prepared for their artillery and their planes, but no one prepared us for the sound of their trucks. Every night, every single night, we heard them. Thousands of trucks, engines roaring, rolling east, and we knew that sound meant they had everything, food, fuel, ammunition, everything, and we had nothing. You can't fight that. You can't defeat an enemy who has everything." So we surrendered, not because we were cowards, but because we were realists. The trucks had already won the war. In the end, the Red Ball Express moved 412,193 tons of supplies over 82 days. It consumed 57 million gallons of fuel and destroyed 5,458 trucks. It cost 304 lives. It shortened World War II by approximately 6 months and proved that in industrial warfare, the capacity to deliver supplies can be as decisive as the will to fight. And it was accomplished largely by men who, when they returned home, still couldn't vote in many states, still faced discrimination, still had to fight for basic civil rights. They had helped defeat fascism in Europe while living under segregation at home. The Red Ball Express didn't just change military logistics. It planted seeds that would grow into the civil rights movement. The men who drove those trucks knew their worth, knew what they had accomplished, and refused to accept second-class citizenship after proving themselves first-class soldiers. That may be the truest legacy of all. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.